Hey guys, it's Scrappinkaty, and today is day 19 of Christy's Beautiful Life 30 Days of Sketches. And today's one-page layout is all about the gamer in our house. How many of you have gamers that you need to scrapbook? Here we are at day 19, and here is a look at the sketch. So right off the bat, I'm loving the graph paper. Not sure if I'll actually make those lines or use graph paper. And then this big blob of color, and then kind of these splatters, and then this little element over here to the right. Now, you may look at this and think it's a little feminine because of the flowers. But what I love about sketches is that you can actually make them anything you want. So I'm going to be scrapbooking these two photos of my son gaming on one of our ice days recently. And I'm also going to be using the Level Up stamp set in thin cuts from Close to My Heart. I immediately purchased this because I knew that I would have a lot of photos, but I haven't actually inked it up yet. So I'm excited to do that. And then I'm also going to do some Distress Oxide splatters for this little paint blob. So we'll see how I can do with the sketch and kind of take it in a non-feminine direction. And let me clear my desk and we can get started. I pulled out the Noteworthy paper pack because I knew it had graph paper in it. It has a distressed side and then a white side. So I think I'm going to try to use that. And then, of course, just build it on a plain sheet of White Daisy cardstock. And that will allow my colors to really show up. Even though Distress Oxides tend to sit on top of your project. So you could probably use a colored cardstock, but I'm going to go with white just to kind of make it bright. To me, gaming and anything like that just needs really vibrant colors. Before I start with the Distress Oxides, I want to go ahead and get this graph paper torn. So I just kind of guessed at it and I cut it down to 9 by 8. And I am just going to tear this here. Now I don't want a white border showing. So this is the piece I'm going to keep, and I need to tear it toward me. And the top kind of has a little lip like that, whereas the bottom goes all the way to that corner. So we are going to go ahead and get this adhered down really well, and then we can start the fun stuff. I'm going to start with the green, which is Mowed Lawn. I'm just going to put it down onto my glass board. And today I'm just going to be using regular water. And then I will be adding some gold splatters, but I think I'm going to use the Gilt spray. And I'm just using regular white cardstock. If you prefer to use like a watercolor cardstock, you definitely can do that. I'm just going to pick up that color and come all the way down and then up toward the top. Kind of keeping it right over here, pardon me, on this left side, because that's how the sketch calls for it. And then now we can do the same with the Salty Ocean. I'm not going to clean my mat. I'm just going to come down here right quick. Distress Oxides aren't like the gloss sprays. Those gloss sprays dry like paint. And so I usually have to clean up my glass board immediately. But these Distress Oxides will wipe right off this glass board. And I'm kind of mixing them together to, not that you'll really be able to tell, but who knows? That's the beauty about Distress Oxides, is you never know what you're going to get, but it's always gorgeous to me. Okay, so I think we're good with that, and I can clean this up. Baby wipe works wonders, as well as my packaging material. I'm going to leave all this out just in case I need to add some more once I start putting my photos and my embellishments down. Before I get started, I'm going to go ahead and add some gold shimmer. I thought about using the gloss spray, but I think I'm going to do the shimmer brush instead. we'll see if I get as much shimmer as I want. So I like to just put that on either a block, or you can see here my glass board. Just makes it a little bit easier to pick up because I really want it wet since I'm flinging it. I am going to put just a few of these up here because you know we've got that that little element that comes in from the top right. I'm just going to clean that up, and then we can let this dry. And while that's drying, I'm going to start stamping some of these little remote controls. The stamp set is so fun because it literally has every remote that you can possibly think of to use for gaming. And I mean, it even has, you know, I don't know if that's an old Wii remote. It reminds me kind of our Apple TV remote. So I'm going to lay out that little foam insert, and I'm going to grab some of these. I always cut multiples just because, you know, my motto, cut once and then get multiple results. Kill two birds with one stone, so to speak. So I'm just going to ink these up in black and just stamp directly onto these little die cut images. I decided to bring out a few more stamp sets. This one is from the Buddy collection, and my son always wears the little, what are those called? Headphones. And so I wanted to replicate that, but his are red, and then of course they've got the black ear muffs or whatever. So I am going to use red for the earmuff part, and I mean black for the earmuff part and red for the other. So I'm just going to line my stamp set up in candy apple and then use the black for just the earmuff part. And then stamp that down on this little die cut piece. And there we have some customized headphones. And then I also found a couple of stamp sets that I'm going to use for part of my title. And it's the Living the Dream and the Sweet Life. And I think that's what's going to go right here. I want to add some pencil marks here just to make sure that I stamp straight. So I'm just going to add just a very light one there, and let's go up 3/4 of an inch because these letters are pretty tall. I'm going to start with the outline. I don't know if you can tell, but these stamp sets have an outline and then kind of a squiggly filling. And so I am going to be, I'm going to be using both of them, and it's going to be Living My Dream and Life. And that's why I pulled both of them. Living My Dream Life. Just going to erase these lines before I stamp in the filling. I don't know if I want just black. I think I want black because I think I've got enough color. I am going to bring in some pops of yellow here in a second, but for the most part, I think I just want black. But what I love about this is you definitely could add a black outline and then a different color on the inside. So I'm going to try not to get my hair in the shot, but I need to line this up. So we'll see how easy that's going to be. The other good thing is, since it's not really perfect, you know, since it's meant to be kind of squiggly, if you don't get it perfect, then it just looks like that's the way it's intended to be, which I am all about. Need to make sure I don't get that ink that's on my block, on my layout. Living my dream life. Don't you think these sentiments are just perfect for this type of, not only the sentiment itself, but even the squiggly lines? It kind of reminds me of, you know, dial-up internet way back when, which our kids have no knowledge of. It just kind of reminds me of the airwaves going over the interwebs, trying to allow him to play with people all over. I'm going to move these out of the way. Again, I'll leave links down below to these if you want to grab them. I think I'm going to go the ink route. And I think I'm just going to use black re-inker. Just squirt some right here. And then same thing, I am going to use some packing tape. I am going to put just a little bit of black shimmer brush in there. No, my black shimmer brush doesn't always like to release the shimmer. And then I'm going to use a smaller packing material to get this done, so it can be a little bit more controlled. And I'm going to try to only do one finger. We're going to have it right here. And I think it was up here. I hate that it's, you can tell where the corner is, but I think that'll work. For my little detail up in the top right, I'm going to use the monitor from that same Buddies collection. And I'm going to ink that down right there. And then I am going to add my headphones, I believe, right here. And then, of course, it did have some doodling that I need to do on the bottom left and the top right corner. So I'm going to pull out the remote that looks most like my son's, which is this one. And then I'm also going to add some color to it. So I'm going to be using Bluebird. And this is something that I do really often with my Close to My Heart stamps. If they are uniform, which all of these are, which means that they have the same shape on the front, you know, that I inked down, as if I were to use the back side. And that's what I've done, is this is the smooth back side to this. And I'm going to pull out my sketch just to kind of see. I'm trying to see what a second generation of this Bluebird looks like. I could use the Salty Ocean Distress Oxides, but they tend to be kind of chalky, and it kind of hides the dark stamped lines of the image. So yeah, I think I'm going to go with second generation. Let me pull out this foam just in case. So second generations means that I ink it up, and then my first stamp is off my project, and my second stamp down is on my project, and you get a lighter image. And this can go for solid stamps, outline stamps, whatever you want. Stamps wanting to stick to it. So yeah, I like that a whole lot better than just plain black and white. So I can put that to the side just for a little bit. I am going to use some more of those sentiments here in just a second. And so now I think I want to go ahead and adhere down my photo, and that way I can start deciding where I want some of these elements. I'm going to use the graph paper to make sure that my photo is straight. And I'm just making sure that basically this little subtitle over here is centered. I'm going to turn that over. Make sure that's really pressed down. For the doodling in the corners, you guys know I'm all about hand doodling. But I actually remembered the stamp set that has all these little embroidered patterns to it, and I think I want to use that. There's this one that reminds me of like Vans. I don't even know what embroider pattern this is. I'm not an embroiderer. But I really like this, and I am going to mask some of that off so I can have different lengths. So I'm just going to lay that right there. That's just a scratch piece. And go ahead and stamp that down. And then I'm going to do the same thing, probably about right here. Okay. I think that that will work. And then I told you guys we're adding pops of yellow. So I just used this thin cut to use some of that Lemonade glossy cardstock. You can see that shine, which to me, gaming is all about shine and bright and everything else. And I'm actually going to add it to the top and bottom of this photo, kind of like a frame. It's not large enough to be a frame itself, but you can always cut these. So I'm going to go 1.25 inches and 1.25 inches. And then you know that I don't ever put 3D foam tape all the way to the edge. So I can just slide it down under here. So right off the bat, I noticed that I don't want that much showing up at the top. I can have a little bit more showing at the bottom because I am going to put my title down there. But up at the top, I don't want that much. Much better. So for this little grouping up at the top right, there is a sentiment and it says level up. And I'm going to stamp it right down here using that Distress Oxide ink. And this is what I was talking about. Look at that print. Doesn't that just go perfectly with whatever embroider, whatever that is? And I can't tell if that's straight or not because I don't think it is. So we're going to stamp it onto here and cut it out and then add it on 3D foam tape, I think. So let me add the headphones first, and then we can get that leveled up pop dotted. And I want them to go like this, kind of crooked to match the monitor. And then I just have thin 3D foam tape on here. Now, let's make sure I don't do this one crooked too. Okay, so level up. For my title, I'm going to go with Gamer. So I've pulled out my black acrylic shapes, and I'm going to be using those. It looks like I'm going to have to go get my other package. And so I'm going to use Gamer as my title, and then I'm not really sure about Fortnite. I want that on there somewhere too. And then I also want stars. So we have traditional stars, or we have like these weird stars. So there's traditional, or we have like these bursts. And I'm actually thinking the bursts go better with the gaming. I'm going to glue down my title first, and I'm going to start with the M. I want to go, since I want it centered on this yellow piece, I want to go with the M right in the middle of these photos, since it is the middle letter. And then I can work myself out And on these acrylic shapes, you can use liquid adhesive or glue dots. I've really found that this liquid adhesive does really well. So I've been using it, whereas a few months ago I was using glue dots and kind of rolling them on, the micro glue dots, you know, kind of rolling them on. But I still felt like you could see the micro glue dots from behind. That is dry, and I'm not gonna lie, it took a lot longer than I anticipated. So if you're going to use glossy paper and liquid adhesive, you need to be patient. So I've got that glued down, and then I am going to add glue dots to the back of those stars. And I think I'm going to use the pointiest stars and only have one type instead of, you know, these kind of look like squares to me. So I think I'm just going to use these really, really pointy ones. And I'm using micro glue dots. For the most part, the centers to these stars are big enough that it'll hide them. I'm going to speed this up while I glue these down. I did decide to just go straight up and down with them instead of kind of off center. They looked more like X's instead of stars when I did that. So now is a great opportunity to remind you, if you are liking this video, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps YouTube show you more videos of the same, and it helps me grow my channel. Do you ever have a layout that you just keep adding crap to? Well, that's me. Okay, so I added those, and then I even added some enamel dots. He's got some gray buttons on his controller. And then I've been wanting to use the Eat, Sleep, Game, Repeat, but I just feel like right now, as it stands, this layout is sentiment heavy. And so I don't think it had anywhere to put this. And then I got to thinking that I will just cut this apart. Don't be scared, I do this all the time. I will cut these apart, and it actually will go down under Gamer. So since this is an afterthought, and since Gamer is already adhered down, I kind of have to be careful because my block will hit the acrylic letters. So in order to do that, I just have to make sure that my sentiments are on the very top of my block. And then I also have to be careful not to get ink anywhere else on my block, which should be really easy since I have an acrylic block. A lot of times when that happens, I'm just being lazy. And then I usually like my image in the middle of my block so I can really see all around it. But being that I'm stamping on graph paper, it'll be okay because I can use the graph paper to line up my sentiment. So we've got Eat, Sleep, Game. And then I'm going to put Repeat right in the middle here. Before we revisit the sketch, I want to remind you once again that the Creative Design Team membership group is now open, but only for a limited time. Registration will close March 31st, so check out the link below to sign up. Let's take a look at the sketch and how I did. So I kept with the graph paper, which I told you guys I probably would either do graph paper or do my own graph lines. I kept with the doodle down here, the black splotches, the mixed media, and then of course this little area up here. The only other direction that I went instead, I have the title down there, but I went with less feminine. And so you can see here that that is all Gamer. Nothing really feminine except maybe the shimmer from the shimmer brushes. Let me pick that up and show you. So not only do I have the shine from the UV coated cardstock, you can see that down there, but I also have the shimmer from the gold as well as that I mixed with that black re-inker. And you can see that I've got it down there as well. And I love the acrylic shapes. Really liking a whole lot of this layout. It took me a while, and it's a whole lot of product just kind of slammed on there, but I think for the most part it all looks cohesive. So thank you so much for stopping by and watching. Remember, if you liked what you saw, hit that subscribe button and sign up for notifications so you'll be alerted the next time I post a crafty video. I'll leave links down below to all the products that I used, as well as links to Christy's Beautiful Life Facebook group where you can go check out the sketches and even play along with us. We'd love to see your take on the sketches. And then there'll also be YouTube links to all the other YouTube channels playing along this month. So again, this is day 19, so we've got several more days left in the month of March. And I look forward to sharing my creations with you. Thanks so much for stopping by and watching. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend.